Hey everybody, apparently we are the gatekeepers of you going to lunch. So you're gonna hear some fun stuff from us. Again, my name is Tom and this is Justin. Today we're gonna go through a little bit of a simulation here where this kind of resonates to me because I came from the customer side, same as what Brent and same what was with Russ. I was a CISO at my old company, a manufacturing vertical, and I had to deal with a lot of fun things from my employees. But kind of for today's session, I'm going to talk about how I really actually embrace AI. I use it in my day-to-day operations. I'm correlating the outside data, the threat landscape, understanding what's going on, and then also doing a lot of different things to help enhance my teams. Justin, I don't know if you want to explain who you are.
I'm excited. I'm not playing the CISO. I'm actually playing something that maybe some of y'all are, but embodies y'all's company. I'm going to play the employee. I'm going to walk through a little bit how I use AI day to day, and it's probably going to make a little of y'all, some of y'all uncomfortable on what I'm putting through AI.
Well, I'm sure that you guys all have the Justins or whoever it is in your organizations where they're just curious and they want to do things faster. They want to do things a little bit more accelerated. They want to make sure that, hey, they might stand out and be that perfect employee, but let's actually see what's going on. So when we first think of this, AI breaches, there's 97% of AI breaches are due to improper access controls, whether that means looking at the guardrails that Brent was talking about and having those safeguards in place. These are all different factors from from that 90% there. So some of the questions that I would ask is really, how do I protect against sensitive data exposure by my employees' usage of AI services? How do I keep that sensitive data secure across all AI pipelines, models, and APIs? But kind of the next thing is, how do I govern against those new tools like MCP servers, OpenClaw, Hermes agents, and all that? So when we look, obviously a lot has been talked about with that visibility and observability and then governance. But now we have to understand, what are we actually looking at from our environment? What's actually happening within there? And then be able to assess and say, hey, I have some risk in my environment. I have maybe my users, maybe my machines, maybe something along those lines, maybe the build pipeline, there's something risky around there. But through that visibility now, I can have some observability. Oh, go back, sorry. So now I can see what's actually happening there. I can see Justin using ChatGPT or Claude or Copilot, Gemini. But what is he really doing in there? Is he uploading sensitive data? Is he properly misusing? Maybe doing some weird prompts? Who knows? But now the next question would really be, like, who's even using AI around here?
I am. That's me. And I'm excited. I want to give you all a little fair warning. We did do some interesting takes with our slides here. So the text might be a little bit small, so don't worry.
We were assuming that we're going to be on that 80-foot screen that you guys had, made sure that the text was going to be really big, but here we are, guys.
So no worries. But I want to walk y'all through a little bit about how I use AI. Now, for me personally, I love to use AI to respond through emails. I'm a little bit direct when it comes to email, so being able to draft and essentially create an email for me to help sound a little warm sounding compared to how I'm going to craft this email. But I have an email here to Halsey where I need to create a new report. We have some new customers onboarded, and I want this to draft my email for me. It's going to create this rough draft, and I'm off to the races. I just need to share back some data with this, and it's going to help me make a good email.
Okay, all right, Justin, I heard a few things that it resonates with me, where you are using AI in a great way to have the effective communication, be able to just not be so direct. And sometimes I know how you interact with people because I've heard reports about that, where it is really nice to be able to see that because you're being a more effective communicator. But I also heard something that was a little bit, that kind of tickled my fancy a little bit with this one. What were you saying about data?
Yeah, so as I mentioned with Copilot, I just need to share back some data, and it's able to organize it. It's really good at crafting emails, building reports.
Okay, all right. Data. You're putting sensitive data in public applications. So that is something that we need to figure out. So not so fast on that one. So from here, I see how Justin's using this. I have that observability. Now let's start adding some governance in here. So obviously we need to understand that our users are possibly using ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Claude in a possibly safe way that they think might be safe, but it's essentially being a little bit more malicious for risky in our environment, or in my environment. Because obviously as a CISO, as a leader, I need to be able to understand that, hey, where's my data going? Because data is really what runs our business, what pays my paychecks, what pays Justin, so that now I can actually add those different controls around there. So as I go in, maybe it's something as easy as, okay, we're talking about sensitive data for this. Maybe I need to do some blocks. Maybe I need to govern how Justin uses these applications. Maybe put those guardrails in so that now he's not having to, he's not proposing that risk in our environment. So as I go through, maybe I'll do something as easy as, okay, I want to see what sensitive data is coming in with maybe file uploads, or maybe something as easy as copy and paste. So now we have to make sure that we have that policy set, we can enable that, and now let's go try it out.
All right, I was interrupted here. Let me get back to my day-to-day task. I need to craft this email. I have my rough draft. Really, it's all about using Copilot. All I need to do is attach my file. And essentially, yeah, as I was mentioning, we have some new cells, this data here. I don't want to go through it. I just need to use AI. I'm going to grab my file. I'm going to attach it using Copilot, and it's going to analyze. It's going to, draft everything beautifully for me, something that I wouldn't be able to do or really want to take the time to do. I'm trying to expedite my performance, my evaluation. So I'm going to attach this file. I'm going to add it in here, and it's going to craft my email. Now, interesting. One more time. Some things happen. Obstacles happen all the time. It's okay. I'm agile. I'm gonna move around it. So in this case, I'm just gonna copy and paste it directly in there. I don't need to attach the file. Some things happen. Maybe it's an internet connection. I'm not sure. I'm gonna get this job done. It's gonna draft this email for me.
I feel like, Justin, you have been not present for the last 30 seconds of us talking, that we had to put some governance in here where I knew that you're going to probably do something like this because it was maybe you haven't read certain policies that we might have put into place, where now, hey, you put sensitive data in there, now I have to have that, when I have that observability, the governance comes in place. And now, what do you see now, Justin?
I see an obstacle, and all I see is now I need to pivot. Copilot, it was my best friend, but that's okay. I'm familiar with other tools. In fact, I learned OpenAI first. That's my first love. So I'm going to pivot over here. I'm going to use OpenAI. I'm going to get this job done. You're going to be happy with this report. I promise.
Like I said, I'm so glad that you use all these AI applications, because I use it too.
Hold on. Once again, it's okay. This might be an error. All right, something's going on here.
Justin, again, I feel like I need to throw this clicker at you because you're not listening to what I'm actually saying. The governance that we have to do isn't just from ChatGPT or isn't from just Copilot. Of course, we're using that with Microsoft and so forth. But it's also around, let's look at ChatGPT, look at Gemini, Grok, all these different applications that are publicly being used or that you guys can use. And I'm sure that you guys have had this situation, right, where you have the Justins in your environment, and it's very hard to set that governance because he's always going to find a way. Water always finds a way to flow downstream. So.
It's funny. I'm starting to pick up some of these dots you're putting down. I'm connecting them. No public AI. I was actually talking to some coworkers of mine through Teams, and they sent me a URL, and it turned out to be an internal portal. It's okay. I get what you're saying. No public AI. It's all right. I'll use this instead.
Again, great. I'm glad that you're making friends in the company. It's awesome. You're being collaborative and all that, and it's a nice thing to see. So yes, you have found an internal application that our employees have used, and this is actually our developer MCP server chatbot, where they're using things like looking at GitHub, looking at Figma, looking at Stripe to be able to maybe build certain applications, to be able to take financial transactions, and be able to design the different applications that our internal people are using. So again, not so fast, Justin. We have to look at it in this way. Yes, I want Justin to be able to use all those different AI services, internal and external, but I need to make sure that he has the right access for the right application at the right time. So now when we go into here, when we look at those MCP servers or those different internal applications, we need to make sure that Justin has that, again, that right access at the right time, but still being able to set that governance on, hey, Justin's not a developer. He doesn't need to have code, he doesn't need to go look at repos. He doesn't have Stripe. He doesn't need to worry about the financial transactions. He's not a graphic designer, so he doesn't have to look at their internal designs within Figma, but he needs to be able to access maybe HR applications or HR MCP server. So now I want to make sure that I block that different access for him so that now, again, he doesn't need to have that access because he doesn't have that role or that identity. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit save here, and let's go ahead and try it again, Justin.
All right, well, okay, I see. Back to my task at hand. I've been a little unsuccessful, 0 for 3 so far on my AI usage, but no worries. I hear you. No public AI. This one's internal. That means I can submit anything I want through it, get my job done. I'm going to get this report done one way or the other. So that's OK. I'll use this. And as you see, it's work. Well, OK. That's all right. You know, actually, I did a little bit of self-education. I watched some YouTube videos. And I found that if you just hit caps lock, yell at it, tell it to ignore things, and then demand, you'll actually make it somewhere with AI. I will get what I need, just got to crack the whip on it.
Okay, I guess you are learning, but I feel like...
Okay, this is frustrating.
Yeah, I feel like if I asked you the question of like, what's your favorite scent, you tell me it's glue. Like you gotta learn about this a little bit more. Where our AI or our developers, I've talked to our development team, and obviously we need to secure these different things. And we've talked about the different safeguards on how to really use AI effectively internally. So we've developed a couple things to block against that. So again, you're seeing that safe governance and the things that you shouldn't be doing, like novel attacks that you see of ignore anything or ignore all instructions, doing all those different things. Yeah, it might worked in the past, but when you put actual great guardrails or guardrails around that development, now you can be protected.
All right, so I think I just need to figure out how to make this tool work for me. So I heard you said this is MCP. That means I have probably some tools here. Let me see what I have access to. GitHub, Linear, Stripe. You know, I've always been a curious person. I'm going to click this. All right, something's going on here. I'm getting blocked. So I don't think I have access to anything for AI. Okay,
Justin, again. Are you a developer?
No.
You clicked on GitHub. Of course, we set that governance up so that, of course, you're not a developer. You're not having to do anything with code repos, so you get that block.
Okay. Well, I mean, I kind of work in sales, so yeah, let's see what's going on. Let's just click this one.
Justin, again. Stripe is financial data, that your financial data or a financial application that you shouldn't have access to. So stop clicking on things like this.
All right, well, I mean, I'm one to turn over rocks. There's a few more buttons here. I like design things. I like some insider details. Let's see what's going on here.
Oh, God, Justin. I feel like if someone offered you free candy on the side of the road, you take it right now. Because all these different things you already had, we've already talked about that governance of you're not a developer, you're not having to deal with financial data, you're not a graphic designer. So why are you clicking on all these things? But for myself as a leader, I have to worry about all these different things because we have curious people. I'm sure, like I said, you guys have Justins in your environment. I know everybody has that certain person. You guys aren't saying it, but I know you guys have that certain person in your environments that you are trying to account for. So, Justin, I want you to click on one button here.
That's the smallest button on the page.
I mean, you clicked on almost every other one, so we might as well click on this one.
All right, let's click it. Let's see what we have here.
So with this, now Justin actually has access to this because it's our HR MCP server. So now he's getting a return on this one. Justin, I want you to read something on that screen.
I'm assuming you're wanting me to read what's flashing in red?
I mean, yes, that's exactly what I want you to read. You have actually clicked on something that was
Prohibited uses. Entering customer PII, names, emails, SSNs, all that fun stuff. That's exactly what I was trying to do.
Well, it's exactly right. Yes, with that safe governance, with all the visibility and the observability, obviously, as a leader, I have to make these different policies, but I also need tools to help enforce those different policies.
So I kind of want to take put on a different hat. I don't want to be Justin, the employee, the bad employee anymore. I want to be Justin, the developer. And let's talk about how I built that little MC application and how I could prepare. Now, AI has moved things exponentially fast, and I need to build, develop, and push incredibly fast. But I also need to do this securely. Now, AI has opened up a unique landscape for me, whereas I'm needing to build these things, but I'm not sure exactly how to attack my applications or what they might be susceptible to. So in this case, I built 2 versions of this application, and I'm about to attack this first version with no protection, just how did I build this app? And we're starting to see some 200 successful messages there at the bottom. Now understand, it's not very visible. I promise you they're all 200s they're going through, and as you can see, I have 20 successful attacks that went through. That's not great. I need to be able to understand and gain feedback. What happened? How can I fix this? How can I address this? What went through? What made this attack successful? And when I have that information, I'm actually able to iterate back over this application. So in this case, right here, I'm going through my second version. So I inlaid some controls. I needed to be able to sanitize what's being inputted into my AI services as well as what's coming out of them. So as I rerun this application's attacks again, I'm going to get a little bit of a different turnout or some results. So as I'm running, you're going to see, I'm going to drag this screen up. We're not going to get those 200 successful messages going like I had that last time where it was all were 200. We're starting to see some different logs in there. I know it's really hard to see, but I promise you it's saying it's blocked. We have sensitive data. It looks like we had a prompt injection attack. Stripe credentials are trying to be leaked. But with that, we're seeing improvement here. Now I have 0 successful. So I was blocking the attacks that were going to my application from being returned back to the user, saving my business application from users like Justin, the employee, who wants to paste PII, who wants to request data that's not for me, or who wants to hit caps lock.
So Justin has shown me a lot of good stuff. For myself being a leader, I'm not going to look at the IDEs. I'm not going to look at the code. I'm not going to look at a terminal window on this one. My teams need factual and really understandable data or this view of what Justin is doing. So give me the results. So from that first iteration of Justin's test, yeah, there's some issues that we have to deal with where the red teaming that we've done from our tools is now shown, hey, there's some things happening with prompt injection. There's things happening with maybe some malicious manipulation of those different models that are in place. But what does that really mean? Now I have to worry about compliancy. I have to worry about regulations within, let's say, MITRE ATLAS or OAuth. Now I have a clear view of, hey, I'm not fully compliant. Why is that? I'm 86% compliant with those 2 frameworks. Now I have to go in and talk to my GRC team because I love talking to GRC or love talking to my governance and regulations people because you know what? I actually don't, because they make me do a lot of different things like collect evidence around what's really going on, why am I not compliant, why am I not doing something in a proper way. So from here now I can go in and say, hey, I'm not compliant in these different line items, I have that, and of course, what's the next steps from my GRC team? They're going to want proof. They're going to want an understanding of like what's really happening, what happened from this type of attack, and now I can go in and I can say, okay, here's the prompt. Here's the different things, here's the scenario that has happened, and here's the evidence. I'm going to walk in with my tail between my legs, here you guys go. But during that second iteration that Justin had mentioned, where he is now building securely into the pipeline that he's doing, I can go in and I can see goose eggs on there. I can see zeros on the successful attacks. That really puts a smile on my face because now I have proof within his second scan that I'm not having to worry about those different attacks being successful. I can see which type of attacks he's done within those tests. But kind of the next part, now my team can actually see 100s across the board for those compliancies. Where now I can say confidently, yes, OWASP, MITRE ATLAS, I'm 100%. When I go and talk to my GRC teams, of course, they're going to want detail. They want to be able to understand what line items within this framework or within this regulation are you compliant. Okay, I have the ability to be able to do that, and then now still have that ability to be able to give them the data that they want, the prompt that they want, and just more evidence so that they're not having to come back to me and yell at me because I didn't provide enough data.
So let's think about the AI stack itself and what comprises of it. Most of the time, in fact, all the time, data. Data is the cornerstone of all businesses and applications. It's paramount we understand what's critical, what might be sensitive out there. You might have prompts stored in knowledge-based sources like S3, for example. But identifying what data sources you have and what is critical to you is important, because when we look at that second step, when we're starting to build with AI or leverage AI, most of the time, in fact, all the time, it's going to be the agentic AI layer or the MCPs that are going to be communicating with the data. You know, it's going to be its source of truth, its knowledge base, it's one place to find any information it needs. So it's really important we identify what's critical and what it's connected to. We've seen a lot of movement in the application development space from 15 years ago when things were on traditional servers. We moved to containers. Everything's been split into microservices, and we're starting to see a lot of these AI applications accelerate in the microservice space, especially when they're leveraging like NVIDIA's NIM services to be able to build these and enhance that, you know, AI feature set. We do know that these need to be hosted as well somewhere. They're going to be running, you know, whether on-premise or one of these hyperscalers like AWS, for example. And any small configuration, because there's a lot of unique configuration when it comes to this when it comes to these hyperscalers, it could potentially, you know, infect your business application because, you know, you might expose that knowledge base accidentally publicly to the world.
Yep, and Russ had talked a little bit about this, and obviously the gentleman from Anthropic had talked a lot about this, where vulnerabilities are being discovered day in and day out, and they're being discovered at quite an exponential pace right now. So when we look at that, we have to understand what's going on, what's happening within those vulnerabilities, and then be able to address those zero-day type of exploits that we see. And we can do this at the network layer from what Russ was saying about ZDI, being able to do those virtual patches and all that. Then we had talked about this one, that fun little banter between Justin, the employee that loves to click on everything and loves the smell of glue. So now we are able to understand, really what he's actually using in a visibility way, where now we can see those applications, we can observe what he's doing from what he's prompting up or what he's uploading and all that, and then be able to govern on that different access. But then when you look at this whole complete picture, from a build perspective, from a usage perspective, from an application code security perspective, now we can actually see that complete visibility that I would want from a leader sense of my developers are using this, my end users are using this, my customers outside are using AI. So now I can properly really protect and give that safeguard for my whole AI asset visibility stack. So there's a couple key takeaways that I wanted to at least give you guys before lunch. I know I hear some stomachs grumbling here. I see the front table really looking for that sandwich or that lunch. But when we look at this from a leader perspective, I need that visibility, because that visibility becomes observability. That observability becomes governance to what my employees are doing, what the Justins in the world are doing. Where now when I set the governance, I don't want to stop Justin from doing his things. I want to make sure that he's using it in a right way. And what Brent was saying, you know, putting those guardrails up so that it's not necessarily stopping him from doing it, it's just making sure that he's guided along the way so that he's more effective on using AI. He's more effective on how he communicates, on how he does all those different things and all the clicks that he does. But it goes a little further from that when we start looking at how developers are building this. So understanding, instead of just looking at, oh, developers are using these different tools, now we have to understand what these different tools are doing, what these identities are doing, what these non-human identities are doing, what data does it have access to, whatever applications, whatever APIs, whatever the path may be, we need to be able to understand that, and then be able to, again, govern that access. So when you kind of have all those different pieces within that AI blueprint that we showed and kind of the takeaways, now you can really say yes. You can say really yes to AI safely. All right. I think we have a few minutes here. I don't know if you guys have any questions or not. But for the things that we had shown you guys, obviously it's a little small. We were a little, like I said, we wanted to be on the big screen, but here we are. So we have our demo stations out. And please go over there, because you can get a better view of actually what we're showing. And then, yeah, we'd love to hear any questions you guys have any. Thank you, guys. Oh, we have one. All right.
No questions. Okay. Oh. Was there a question out there? Oh, there's one back here. Okay,
perfect.
Good.
Can you hear me? Oh, hi.
There we go.
Does this require another agent to be installed, or is this working on the software we already have installed on the endpoints?
A couple different ways. For what Justin was doing, it was more of a build pipeline, but I'm assuming you're talking about the user side of things. A couple of different ways that you can deploy it, whether it be a proxy auto-config file, or it could be a potential agent too.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, oh, there's a couple questions up front as well.
About the detection of restriction data. By example, I am just thinking about Social Security, PII, basically PHI. In our case, our challenge is that we are a global company, so of course the templates are different. It's not the same, the Social Security or ID or whatever other identification. How AI could help us to detect that kind of critical data, in this case, for the use case?
Yep. So there's a couple different ways. If you have your own, let's say, personal template for PII data, you can craft that within the let's say the filters for that. So anything for, like, let's say, unique part numbers, or maybe standard forms that you might be using that you don't want your users to upload or to copy within those different applications. You can have that flexibility for that. What we showed was just obviously a basic filter that most people use, like something like customer data or emails or things like that.
All right. Can you hear me? Okay. All right, so 2 questions. 1, does this require zero trust? And then 2, what about third-party MCP servers? Can we protect those?
Yep, so this does require zero trust, and for your external MCP servers, a couple different ways on that one. You can look at, we can discover those, or you can obviously put in your custom ones. But we do have a few, we have MCP servers as a configurable item in there too.